Chair of the San Diego Housing Commission Board of Commissioners. It is 9:02 on May 6, 2021, and I'm calling to order the special meeting of the board. The process that we're using for today's meeting is authorized by Governor Gavin Newsom's Executive Order N2920, which he issued on March 17, 2020 to address the COVID-19 public health emergency. The meeting is occurring by video conference with all board members, our Deputy CEO, Housing Commission staff, and General Counsel participating by video. For the record, I will ask each board member to indicate their presence as I say their name. Vice Chair Ryan Klempner.
Here.
Commissioner Dion Akers, who is absent today. Commissioner Maggie Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Johanna Hester.
Present.
Commissioner Keely Hubbard. Also absent. And then Commissioner Mitch Mitchell, who we believe is attending, but not here yet. No members of the public are in attendance. However, members of the public may watch the video conference and hear the audio of today's meeting, which is being streamed live online. The agenda for today's meeting included a link to the website for the Housing Commission Board of Commissioners, where the public can access the live streaming for today's meeting. The public has been provided with an alternative opportunity to provide comments to the board through an online comment form and a toll-free phone number. A link to the online comment form was included on the agenda for today's meeting, which was posted on the Commission's website, www.sdhc.org, on Friday, April 30th, 2021. A revised agenda was posted on the Housing Commission's website on May 3rd, 2021 to update staff recommendations for item 104. The agenda and the public comment form explain that the comments about items on the agenda will be read into the record if they were submitted by 4 p.m. yesterday, Wednesday, May 5th, 2021. Non-agenda public comments submitted by 8 o'clock this morning will be read into the record. In addition, members of the public who wish to speak on an item may call the toll-free phone number that is included on the agenda. Members of the public should monitor the meeting through the live video streaming available through the Housing Commission's website, www.sdhc.org. Again, the agenda includes a link to the website for this board where the public can access the live streaming for today's meeting. Members of the public should call the toll-free phone number only when the item they wish to comment on is introduced. If a caller begins to comment on an item that is different from the item currently being considered, they will be asked to hang up and call back into the meeting at the correct time. Members of the public will have 3 minutes each to provide their comments. However, if a large number of callers wish to speak on a single agenda item, comments will be limited to 1 minute each. The phone line is now open to provide non-agenda public comments. Please call 833-610-2513 to be placed in the queue to provide non-agenda public comments. So we'll go ahead and hold that. This is the time when members of the public may provide comments to the Housing Commission Board about topics that are not on today's agenda, but involve a subject within the Housing Commission's area of responsibility. The Housing Commission cannot take action on non-agenda public comments, but again, that number is 833-610-2513. No written non-agenda public comments were submitted for today's meeting. Our Vice President of Communications, Scott Marshall, is monitoring the queue. Scott, how are we doing?
We do not have any callers at the moment, but we have about 48 seconds left for the line to be open.
Okay, 90 seconds is a long time.
Maybe this is a good time, Madam Chair, to just say Happy Asian Pacific American Heritage Month to our staff, and our clients.
Thank you, Commissioner Hester. If there's any other quick commissioner comments, please feel free to jump in.
I also need to log on and log off. Something's wrong with my Zoom, so sorry. I'll be right back.
Okay.
10 more seconds left.
Thank you, Scott.
We do not have any non-agenda public comment calls.
Great, thank you. Now we'll go ahead and move on to commissioner comments, if there are any. Okay. The next item on our agenda is the report from the President and CEO. Deputy CEO Jeff Davis is going to be providing the report this morning. And just on that note, I'd quickly say that our CEO, Rick Gentry, did have surgery this week and it went very well. We got a lot of positive reports. So continue to send those good thoughts his way for a speedy recovery. Jeff, over to you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Rick did want me to share with you his appreciation for the well wishes that he's received. And I did just speak with him yesterday, and he is doing very well. So a couple of updates to share with the board. On April 21st, Rick participated in a roundtable discussion by video conference with members of the U.S. Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs. The discussion focused on solutions to homelessness among military veterans. Rick discussed the changes implemented here in the city of San Diego to maximize the utilization of Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing, or VASH vouchers. As of March of this year, 99% of the Housing Commission's VASH vouchers were either leased up, issued to a household that was searching for a home, or committed to as a project-based voucher to rental assistance at a specific project. So that's up from 89% in December 2019. Rick also spoke about Operation Shelter to Home and the help that it provided to veterans experiencing homelessness during the COVID-19 pandemic. And past San Diego accomplishments were also discussed, such as Housing Our Heroes initiative, which, as you know, within 18 months in 2016 and 17, helped secure homes for over 1,000 veterans experiencing homelessness. Some policy updates for you. The Housing Commission participates in several activities, such as the Veterans Affairs Committee Roundtable, to track and affect policy decisions at the federal and state level. As we work to enhance and strengthen our policy efforts in Sacramento, we recently began working with Strategies 360, which is a public affairs, communications, and research firm. They are going to complement the great work of our internal policy team, which is led by Senior Director Molly Chase, to advance policies consistent with our mission and to monitor legislative and regulatory changes that may affect the people that we serve. For example, we recently connected with state lawmakers about changes necessary to maximize the help that we can provide through the COVID-19 Housing Stability Assistance Program. Our CEO sent letters to Governor Newsom, state senators and assembly members who represent San Diego to strongly advocate for these changes. Some of the things that we're recommending include allowing the program to pay 100% of past due rent instead of just 80%, and 100% of upcoming rent instead of just 25%. These changes that we requested would allow us to provide more help for each of the qualifying households that apply. The proposed changes also would provide the flexibility to best support San Diegans in need and help them achieve and maintain stable housing. In addition, these requested changes would enable the program to pay the full amount of past due rent owed to landlords, the majority of whom are mom and pop property owners with just a handful of units. Our policy team is also monitoring several state and federal legislative efforts that may provide additional funding for housing and homelessness programs here in San Diego. I'm pleased to announce that beginning with the board's June 11 meeting, we're going to be providing you with updates at each of our meetings about our policy team's efforts and the potential funding opportunities available. I know you're all very interested in receiving an update on the COVID-19 Housing Stability Assistance Program. We've received more than 10,500 applications. More than 95% of these applications report income at or below 50% of San Diego area median income. We're estimating, based on the current applicants, that we will provide approximately $37.5 million in help with rent and utilities for those qualifying households. Before the program launched, we hired approximately 100 short-term staff to review and process applications. Because we are relying on short-term staff to process HSAP applications, we've redirected a number of our long-term staff to perform robust quality assurance audits on applications to ensure that the payments are going to the right people in the right amounts. The Housing Commission started issuing payments about 2 weeks ago. To date, we've dispersed $1.5 million in payments, and that represents about 230 qualifying households. We have completed processing of 3,156 applications. More than 2,700 are approved to receive assistance. 250 were determined to be ineligible, and 166 are pending action because of a change in their priority category. Of the applications approved for assistance, about 2,000 are currently undergoing a quality assurance audit, and about 500 are pending the completion of landlord registration. We have also received an additional 1,128 applications for which the applicant still must submit missing documents before we can make a final determination on eligibility. The programs that the County of San Diego and Chula Vista operate have experienced similar challenges to what we are seeing in terms of obligating and expending funds by the current state deadlines. As of April 27th, the county had received 12,000 applications within its jurisdiction and anticipates dispersing 27 million out of the more than 100 million that they have available. The city of Chula Vista has received 2,179 applications as of May 3rd. Last month, as of May 8th, they projected issuing about 8.3 million in payments out of the 17 million they have available. The Housing Commission is continuing our robust outreach to increase awareness of our program among low-income households. On April 9th, Housing Commission staff participated in outreach in communities in Council Districts 4, 8, and 9. Myself and 20 other senior SDHC staff joined Councilmember Montgomery Stepp and Elo Rivera and their staffs, along with additional partners. And together, we delivered thousands of information flyers to locations that residents frequently visit, such as laundromats, grocery stores, barbershops, and libraries. Additionally, Councilmember Moreno's staff distributed flyers in District 8 throughout the week leading up to April 9th. In addition, the San Diego and Imperial County Labor Council, AFL-CIO, distributed 3,000 flyers at a food distribution event that it held on April 24th. The community-based organizations the Housing Commission contracts with in this program have begun calling people who started their applications but did not finish them yet. And that's about 8,700 pending applications. So these organizations are directly offering to help these individuals complete their applications. In addition, 211 is following up with people from Council Districts 4 and 8 who have called related to a COVID impact in the last year to make sure that they know about this program. And we are working with Mid-City CAN, which stands for Community Advocacy Network, to conduct door-to-door outreach and make direct phone calls to continue to raise awareness about this program. Along with these outreach efforts, we are, of course, continuing to process applications and disperse payments as quickly as possible to help those families that need it. And Madam Chair, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Are there commissioner questions for Jeff?
Madam Chair, I do. I want to add to what Jeff Davis said. The CLC is the San Diego and Imperial County Labor Council is doing a parking lot sign up for the utilities relief on May 28th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Fairmont parking lot, City Heights. It'd be great if the Housing Commission can send somebody who can help answer questions, since, there's opportunities there. So I want to put a plug for that particular event. The other thing I wanted to ask and get clarification from Jeff is, you said 10,500 application, 95% are showing income 50% below San Diego median income, I think. But only, maybe I misheard it. You said 2,000 of that application is going through quality assurance process. And I sort of didn't get the things in between or misheard it. We've divvied up $1.5 million money to 230 households, but I'm not sure how that calculates to the 10,500. Can you just elaborate, maybe, Jeff?
Certainly. Actually, Commissioner, I think I'll ask Azucena Valladolid, who lives and breathes this on a day-to-day basis, to address that question.
Good morning. So we've received just over 10,500 applications. About 8,000 or so meet the initial eligibility, and we've completed processing about 3,100 applications. So out of those, about 2,700 are approved and undergoing quality assurance. In addition to the 3,100 that we've determined eligibility on, we also have another 1,100 or so that are undergoing review. Mainly, we're waiting for missing documentation from the households in order to complete a determination. So we have about 4,000 applications that have been determined or are currently under review.
Thank you. Okay, I'm clear. I think I'm clear.
Thank you, Commissioner. Did you have anything else?
Yeah.
Because we were going to go over to Commissioner Mitchell. Take it away.
Hey, Jeff, good recap. I think my question for you is on the applications, I'm sure that I along with Commissioner Hester, are in shock that the number is so low. I know that kudos to Molly and you. I know we're heading out to do a special event with, I did talk to Bridget Browning the other day, and she says they're just waiting on a date. So, and she's excited about that. And I think we'll see, a good response there. My question for you is that I asked our internal folks to look at the number of people who are behind and that we need to mail something directly to them at their address, just in case they're not seeing all the other information. Have you asked the city water department to do the same thing?
Yes, absolutely. I believe I'll ask Molly to address that, but I believe they've done exactly the same thing. They've sent information out to all of their customers through a flyer, just as SDG&E has.
Yeah.
Thanks. So not only did we actually fund 155,000 insert similar to the insert for your SDG&E bills and any public utility bill, we're working with public utilities on any other communication strategies for folks that are in arrears, and any other ways we can connect with them directly. And then for just Commissioner Hester, I will be at the May 28th event, and I've been working with the Labor Council and with SDG&E to help organize. So I'll make sure I'm there to answer any questions.
The only other thing I'd suggest is that I think I'm going to ask our folks to mail once again, just to the people who are behind, not all the customers, but just the people who are behind, to make sure they see it again. And if the water department's doing that, it's great. We found that at times that TV doesn't work. We'll step up our social media piece, but what are we doing? I haven't seen it. I guess I should probably look to see what the Housing Commission is doing social media wise specifically, and on radio. Molly, you don't have to do it right now, but just I want to know what you're doing on radio, because I do know that there are certain stations that send it to be listened to more than others, and would hit the target population that we're looking for that are behind on their bills.
Of course, we actually just extended our Spanish radio buy, as we're seeing in the data coming in from applications that is having an impact in terms of how folks are hearing about the program. And I can send you the buy along with Scott of what different spots we're messaging in. And then our Cox Communications partnership with the public service announcements will continue to run.
Yeah, and I did a 1-hour show the other night with Gospel on Demand, God Radio, God One. Are you guys advertising with them?
Yes, I'm actually doing a podcast with them on the 17th.
Okay, good. All right, and hopefully Leonard, I'll talk to Leonard Thompson about if they can air some reminders to people, that would be great.
They've committed to doing in-kind social media postings and other outreach mechanisms as well as the podcast.
Okay. I just want to make sure that and if you guys need some help with funding that, I'm making sure that they're more aggressive, then let me know.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
You got Mitch on record offering cash. Were there any other questions from the commissioners? I just quickly wanted to ask about the folks, and I know that there is a strategy, but I just was hoping we could touch on it briefly, about folks who don't have access to a computer and or struggle with technology, because the waiting on documents piece kind of strikes me as the thing that you're bad at computers, even you have to scan something. So can you walk us through what the strategy is for those folks?
Yeah, I'll start, and maybe if Molly, if you have anything to add, but that's the primary purpose of the CBOs that we have contracted with, is to basically handhold those in their community, so that those that do have issues with being able to access technology will have somebody to contact that will be able to walk them through that process. 211 is also, we've extended our contract with them beyond what we did with our previous iteration of rental assistance, so that they're also able to help with uploading documents, etc. And then we also have this most recent partnership we're doing with the CAN network that is going to be doing door-to-door outreach to try to, again, reach out to those that maybe aren't hearing about it through the traditional methods. Molly, do you have anything you want to add?
Chris, now that we are in a less restrictive tier, we're working with each CBO on doing more in person, whether it's tabling at vaccination clinics or different outreach events that they're aware of, to make sure that we're partnering, one of our CBOs with funded laptops to do on-site assistance in different community events, specifically in districts 4, 8, and 9. And then to Jeff's point, 211 actually not only is providing assistance on the phone, but they have text message capacity. So if a household or an applicant doesn't have access to a computer, they can text message photos of documents, and 211 can upload them on their behalf, which is important in bridging that digital divide. And then lastly, we continue to work with partnerships like SDG&E and the Labor Council to bring any resources that we know have the ability to have tablets out in the community. And then, as Jeff mentioned, Mid-City will have 7 field outreach workers going door to door, not just letting them know about the program, but each will have a tablet so that they can help households apply on site at their homes. And then they will also be phone banking directly to tenants.
Thank you. Yeah, it's, hearing from some of the folks on the landlord side of things, they've expressed a little bit of frustration with, there's lag time sometimes, you're waiting on one person to send a document, and so and I know there's no easy answer. So I appreciate, this is very robust. I think the commissioners have really stepped up, Commissioner Hester and Commissioner Mitchell, thank you for everything you're doing. But it always just gives me a little bit of heartburn when I think of folks that might be one document upload away from getting to the finish line. And
Chairwoman, I would just add one thing. We found this out in 08, 09, when the financial crisis hit. People were struggling to get access, get online documentation presented for county assistance from all the county programs. And the one thing that we did differently, and as for those of you who remember, I was chairing the food bank during that time. We actually started setting up tables under canopies and tents at schools, because we found that was our most effective way of getting people connected and all the documentation submitted. We became so skilled at it that we got to a point where they would get everything done underneath the canopy while they're picking their kids up, and we would actually deliver it to the county. It was a far more effective way than sending them off, hoping that they would remember all the things they needed to do to get connected. And so just something to consider, Molly, that the food at the largest food bank distributions, back then we'd had food distributions where there'd be 4,000 people, anywhere from 1,100 to 4,000 people. Even if you look at those sites between the two food banks, the ones that are anywhere over 1,000 people or more waiting are probably your best bet. You'll probably find a number of people in those lines that need the assistance, just haven't connected, don't have computer access. And even then, if that's what you decide to do, let me know and we'll figure out a way to help make sure that happens. But we did find that to be really incredibly effective.
Great, thank you. And Chair Benvenuto, to your point, that I think for the folks that are kind of at one document away from uploading, that's the importance of, as Jeff indicated, our CBOs are calling through those 8,000 applications that were started and not submitted, and actually having the live phone conversation of how can we assist you to make sure that you get your application submitted. And we're getting that feedback. Those calls started last week, and seeing some more applications, or at least understanding what's the problem in the process, and letting anyone who has started an application know how they can finish it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Commissioner Klempner, you're off mute. Do you have something to add?
Yeah, I was just curious how the portal is working here, because the last time we talked about this was all moving very quickly and there wasn't a lot of details available. So yeah, I guess sort of two parts of the question about the portal. One, is any of the drop off and completion Does any of that seem to be technologically related, or is really the tech question just a matter of whether people have access or not? And there's been no issues once they have access. And then secondly, I'm curious how much it ended up costing this go around, since that's something we've discussed in each of the prior iterations. And if I'm remembering correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm remembering correct, last time this came up, we were rebuilding the portal from scratch, scrapping the previous one, but we didn't know exactly how much that was going to end up costing, and how it was going to go, other than obviously it was done by the time we launched. So kudos on that. But if we could answer just the cost and how well it's been working.
I'll have to defer on the cost because I don't have that here in front of me. But as far as I know, and I should know, the portal has been operating just fine. It did have to be released in stages. There was some work that continued to be done as we were accepting applications, but it's fully functional now, and I'm not aware of any issues that we've been having that has caused any problems for our applicants. As far as costs, Suket, do you have that figure offhand?
I do not. I will say that guidelines are changing literally bi-weekly. I mean, there's a lot of changes that are coming through the state, and every change that comes through the state, then we have to tweak our portal a little bit, and then of course test it again to make sure that tweaking it here did not mess something up out there. So I do not have the final cost yet, but we can provide you an updated cost after this meeting.
Sure, that'd be great. And then one more question: is it fully mobile compatible?
I'm going to ask Jeff Bartel, who's on the call, to answer that, to confirm that is the case.
Yes, it's fully mobile compatible. So anything that can be done on your tablet, on your phone, or on your PC.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Is there anything else that the commissioners would like to add to this? We are still not in an action item. This is just Deputy CEO's report. Okay. Thank you for that report, Jeff, and thank you to the team for answering those questions. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the special meeting of April 2nd, 2021. The phone line is now open for public comments about the minutes. Please call 833-610-2513 to be placed in the queue. There were no written public comments submitted regarding the minutes. But again, the number is 833-610-2513. Scott, do we have any callers?
We do not have any callers at the moment. We have about 1 minute and 15 seconds before the time runs out.
Okay, thank you.
That concludes the time, and there are no callers for comment on the minutes.
Thank you. Do any commissioners wish to make any changes to the minutes, or is there a motion?
Move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Klempner, or Vice Chair Klempner. We'll go ahead and vote. Vice Chair Klempner,
Aye.
Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Hester,
Aye.
and Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
I'll add my vote in favor. That passes unanimously. Now moving on to action items. We don't have a consent agenda for today's meeting, so we're going to go on with action. The PowerPoint presentations were emailed to the commissioners yesterday, May 5th, and are posted on the Housing Commission's website. I'll note that at this time, that agenda item 101 regarding the contract renewals for the City of San Diego Storage Connect Centers will be postponed to our June meeting. It won't be presented today. Okay, sorry. Jig is up. There's talking points. I'm not doing this all ad-libbed, and I'm doing it wrong. So item 100 is our first item, the Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention Program, or HHAP funded rapid rehousing programs. The phone line is now open for public comments about item 100. Please call 833-610-2513 to be placed in the queue. There were no written public comments submitted regarding this item, but the number to call is 833-610-2513. We will take those public comments if there are any after the staff presentation. And we're going to hear from Executive Vice President of Strategic Initiatives, Lisa Jones, and Housing Programs Manager, Jessica Adamo, who will be presenting today. So please begin whenever you're ready.
Good morning. I'm now, my face is straight again. I think I've stopped giggling. Thank you for that. Good morning, commissioners. We're here before you today to request the continuation of 3 rapid rehousing programs that have been in operation since May of 2019. Next slide, please. The Housing Commission's rapid rehousing programs connect individuals and families experiencing homelessness in the City of San Diego to permanent housing opportunities. In 2019, PATH, or People Assisting the Homeless, Homestart, and the Salvation Army were selected through a competitive procurement process to administer 3 new rapid rehousing programs utilizing Homeless Emergency Aid Program, or HEAP funding. HEAP is a 2-year program funded by the state that concludes on June 30th, 2021 of this year. Along with these 3 programs, the Housing Commission currently administers a total of 9 rapid rehousing programs with 6 different service providers, as well as operating our own rapid rehousing program through our Housing First San Diego operations team. The 3 programs being presented today have housed 111 households since program start. The rapid rehousing programs can provide housing subsidy for up to 24 months, and the length of program enrollment is very client-centered and unique to each household's needs and housing stabilization. Households can exit through the program year, freeing up space for new households to be enrolled. Currently, 66 households are anticipated to require additional assistance beyond the June 30th, 2021 end date for the HEAP funding and the current contract term date in order to stably maintain their housing. The COVID-19 pandemic has complicated efforts of households to increase and maintain household income levels needed to afford ongoing rental costs without financial assistance. Therefore, it is imperative to continue serving the 66 households for an additional year, up to the total 24-month term available under this funding, using Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention, or HAP program funding, as a substitute funding source to ensure the households remain stably housed. Next slide. The next 2 slides provide an overview of the rapid rehousing program, a permanent housing solution utilized in the City of San Diego's continuum of care to address homelessness. Through the coordinated entry system, individuals and families experiencing homelessness are assessed and referred to housing interventions that best address their needs. Rapid rehousing programs are best suited for individuals and families that only need temporary assistance in order to obtain and maintain stable housing. Assistance can vary greatly based on the needs of each household, but generally it includes help with housing search, rental application fees, security deposit payments, short to longer term rental subsidies, and landlord engagement. Next slide. Once enrolled in a rapid rehousing program, clients work with program staff to identify and apply for housing opportunities that are affordable with the program's initial rental assistance and the household's projected future income levels. Program staff support clients to develop and accomplish case plan goals that reinforce housing stability, such as increasing income, accessing community resources, and addressing outstanding debt. Rental assistance subsidies paid to the landlord on behalf of the tenant gradually decrease as the tenant takes on a larger portion of the rent. At the close of program participation, the tenant has successfully taken over the entirety of their rent. The pace at which tenants assume responsibility for the full contract rent amount varies according to the household's unique needs and the guidelines set forth by the program's funding requirements. And I'll now pass it over to Jessica Adamo. Next slide, please.
Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention, or HAP program funding, will be utilized to support the 66 program participants currently enrolled among the 3 programs. HAP funding is authorized by Assembly Bill 101, which was signed into law by Governor Newsom in July of 2019. The funds are allocated to jurisdictions experiencing a severe homelessness crisis. HAP replaces HEAP funds, which are set to expire on June 30th, 2021. HAP funds must be contractually obligated by May 31st, 2023, and completely expended by June 30th, 2025. HAP funds in the amount of $969,885 will support the continuation of 3 rapid rehousing programs in the city of San Diego through June 30th, 2022. Next slide. In April 2021, Mayor Todd Gloria announced additional one-time funding through the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, in the city's fiscal year 2022 budget proposal for homelessness services. If approved, ARPA funds in the amount of $1 million will supplement the HAP funding and provide the opportunity to scale staffing in the 3 rapid rehousing programs and support up to an additional 100 households experiencing homelessness. Next slide. The proposal before you today recommends extending the existing rapid rehousing programs presently operated by PATH, Home Start, and the Salvation Army. The funding amounts would be awarded as follows: $355,604 HAP and $300,000 ARPA awarded to PATH, $308,643 HAP and $375,000 ARPA awarded to Home Start, and $305,643 HAP and $325,000 ARPA awarded to Salvation Army. Next slide. Continuity of case management and rental assistance is vital to ongoing housing stabilization for existing households participating in the 3 rapid rehousing programs. The non-competitive agreement under Procurement Policy 9.4 will be utilized to procure the services of PATH, Home Start, and the Salvation Army for fiscal year 2022 for these programs, to both serve households that will continue to need support into fiscal year 2022 and serve approximately 100 new households. Next slide. Therefore, staff recommends that the Housing Commission Board take the following actions. Authorize the Housing Commission to execute a 1-year contract with PATH to operate a rapid rehousing program funded with HAP and ARPA in the total amount of $655,604 for the term of July 1, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. Contingent on funding being allocated for this purpose in the City of San Diego's fiscal year 2022 budgeting process. Authorize the Housing Commission to execute a 1-year contract with Home Start to operate a rapid rehousing program funded with HAP and ARPA in the total amount of $683,638 for the term of July 1, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. Contingent on funding being allocated for this purpose in the City of San Diego's fiscal year 2022 budgeting process. Next slide. Authorize the Housing Commission to execute a 1-year contract with the Salvation Army to operate a rapid rehousing program funded with HAP and ARPA in the total amount of $630,643 for the term of July 1, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. Contingent on funding being allocated for this purpose in the City of San Diego's fiscal year 2022 budgeting process. Authorize the President and CEO or designee to execute all necessary documents and instruments that are necessary and or appropriate to implement these approvals on terms and conditions approved by the President and CEO or designee upon the advice of and in a form approved by General Counsel, and to take such actions necessary and or appropriate to implement these approvals in accordance and compliance with all applicable laws, rules, and regulations. Next slide. And authorize the President and CEO to increase the amount of funding per operator agreement by no more than 20% of the approved budget and to substitute funding sources for each of the proposed agreements if necessary without further action by the Housing Commission Board, but only if and to the extent that funds are determined to be available for such purposes. The execution of the contracts will be contingent on the renewal of a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, between the Housing Commission and the City of San Diego for administration of HAP funds, or renewal of the General Shelter and Services MOU for use of other funds as deemed appropriate by the City of San Diego and approved through the City of San Diego's fiscal year 2022 budget process. Next slide. That concludes our presentation. We are available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Scott, do we have any callers?
No, we did not have any callers on this item.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments on this item?
Just one quick question. Lisa, you said there's how many people are being served right now? I thought I heard 62.
There's 66 households being served right now, and they are in the middle, about the middle of their time and enrollment in the program. So they will wind down over the next year, but we need to make sure to have funding available for them through next year. And then with the approval of ARPA that will go to the City Council, we would then add the additional 1 million to bring on up to 100 additional households.
Oh, okay, so we would have capacity for 160 households at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. Are there any other questions?
Madam Chair, I want to clarify something. I want to make sure I understood it. Salvation Army is a new vendor? Lisa?
No, Salvation Army, we have both transitional housing contracts with them. And then we have had this rapid rehousing contract with them for as long as we have had with Path and Homestart the past 2 years.
Oh, I see. Okay, maybe I'm confusing it with like Father Joe's and the other vendor that we've discussed in the past.
Possibly. So our rapid rehousing programs, we have Salvation Army, Path, Homestart, and then a few of the San Diego, the TAY, Transitional Aged Youth providers also do some TAY rapid rehousing plus our own.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Commissioner Hester. Are there any other questions or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Commissioner
Or I'll
Davis.
second Commissioner Davis's motion, either
Commissioner
one.
Mitchell, okay, there you go. That's our second. We'll go ahead and vote. Vice Chair Klumpner. Commissioner Akers. He's not here. Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Hester.
Aye.
And Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
I also vote in favor, and the motion carries unanimously. Excuse me. As I noted earlier, item 101 regarding the Storage Connect centers is being postponed to our June meeting, and we won't be hearing that today. So next we're on to item 102, the loan recommendation for Nestor Senior Village. The phone line is now open for public comments about item 102. And if you have any comments, you can call 833-610-2513 to be placed in the queue. No written public comments were submitted regarding this item, but again, that number is 833-610-2513. We'll take those comments if there are any after the staff presentation, but we'll be hearing from Director of Multifamily Housing Finance, Jennifer Kruder, this morning. So Jennifer, whenever you're ready.
Realized I was on mute. Okay, we don't need to wait for the time period to expire. We're good to move forward? Okay.
Take it away.
So, good morning, Chair Benvenuto and Commissioners. The item before you today is a request to approve a $3,330,000 residual receipt loan for the new construction of Nestor Senior Village. Next slide, please. Nestor Senior Village is the proposed construction of a 74-unit project, which is made up of 73 affordable units and 1 unrestricted manager unit. The project is located on leased land owned by Nestor United Methodist Church at 1120 Nestor Way in the Otay Mesa Nestor Neighborhood Council District 8. The proposed project's 73 affordable units will be studios and will serve seniors aged 55 and older experiencing homelessness. All of the affordable units will remain affordable at 25 to 30% of area median income for 55 years. Site amenities will include a community room, a community kitchen, a computer room, and outdoor gathering area. Next slide, please. The developer, National Corps, received a preliminary award of a Housing Commission loan of up to $3,330,000 for the development. In addition to the loan funds, they were also awarded 73 federal project-based vouchers for the development. Services for the tenants will be provided by Father Joe's Villages the County of San Diego Behavioral Health Services, and Hope Through Housing Foundation. Next slide. This slide shows the site map of the development. It is located south of the 75 and west of the 5. The project is located on leased land owned by Nestor United Methodist Church at 1120 Nestor Way in the Otay Mesa Nestor Neighborhood Council District 8. Next slide, please. The total development cost of the project will be $31.5 million, which equates to a per unit cost of approximately $426,000. Notable sources of funding include a permanent loan, loans from the Federal Home Loan Bank, the county, and the Housing Commission, a development impact fee waiver, and tax credits. Next slide, please. Units will be restricted at 25 to 30% of area median income for 55 years. Rent will range from $505 to $606 per month. Next slide, please. Should this be approved today, the developer will apply for 9% tax credits in July 2021. Should the developer receive an award of tax credits, the developer expects to close financing and start construction in March 2022 and complete construction in August 2023. Next slide, please. Here's an artist rendering of the proposed project. Next slide, please. Staff requests that the Housing Commission approve a proposed residual receipts loan up to $3,330,000 to NCRC NSV, a California limited partnership, to finance the new construction of Nestor Senior Village located at 1120 Nestor Way, which will consist of 73 units that will remain affordable for 55 years for seniors aged 55 and older experiencing homelessness and 1 unrestricted manager unit. Next slide, please. Authorize SDHC's president and CEO or designate to execute necessary documents in a form approved by general counsel and take necessary actions upon advice of general counsel to adjust financing terms provided that the proposed $3,330,000 maximum SDHC loan may not increase, to substitute approved funding sources with any other available funds as deemed appropriate, contingent upon budget availability. Next slide, please. This concludes the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Representatives from the developer are also here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Scott, do we have any public comments?
We do not have any comments on this item.
Thank you. So that concludes the public comment period for item 102. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments on this item?
I just make one comment. We talked about this last time. I'm pleased with the production of the units. I become concerned when I see the location and on the maps, and I would ask that on the maps, when you guys are providing us when you're proposing these projects, Jeff, it'd be great if, because I'm go back to my comment about transportation, mass transit, because there's a big discussion, a big focus on mass transit. Can you guys identify on the maps you include? Because you always do a good job of telling us where it is on the map, but can you footnote it on the map that says, nearest trolley station, because I think that's the one thing that is missing, especially as we start to see these projects go further and further into South Bay and towards, the Otay when last meeting was nowhere near a trolley station or trolley transportation. But I would like to know more about when you're presenting these, where's the nearest trolley station to Nestor United Methodist Church to this property?
Yes, certainly. In fact, we had our docket briefing with the chair and vice chair, and they asked that question on your behalf. Yeah. So Colin, first of all, can you answer, or Jennifer or Colin, can you answer that question about the nearest transit? And then in the future, we want to make sure that we include that in the reports.
Yeah, so I know that the nearest bus stop is 2 blocks away from it, but we can look into the nearest trolley station too and make sure to put that in the presentations going forward.
Yeah, and the reason I mentioned that the trolley stations is as the MTS struggles financially, they tend to reduce routes. And so the nearest bus route today may be 2 blocks away, and 2 years from now, maybe 8 blocks away. And they're trying to push more and more people to the trolley. So it's important to know where the nearest trolley station is.
That's an excellent point, Commissioner Mitchell.
We'll be sure to incorporate that into the reports going forward. Okay. Excellent suggestion.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner. Excuse me, Commissioner Mitchell. Are there any other commissioner questions or comments? Okay, this is like old school stuff. None of the more controversial or more difficult topics. So is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Vice Chair Klempner.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mitchell. Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. Vice Chair Klempner.
Aye.
Commissioner Akers. Dang it again. Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Hester.
I know you miss Commissioner Akers. Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Commissioner Akers isn't here, but I'm here. I'll vote aye.
I'm telling you guys, one of these meetings, I'm not going to show up. Which are done excellently, by the way. Staff is perfect. I managed to screw them up. I'm going to add my vote in favor, and this passes unanimously. Everybody voted, right? Our next item is 103, the Preliminary Bond Authorization and Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act, or TEFRA hearing for the Southwest Village Apartments. The TEFRA hearing is now open. The phone line is also open for public comments about the item. And if you'd like to comment, please call 833-610-2513 to be placed in the queue. There were no written public comments submitted for this item, but the number is 833-610-2513. We'll take those comments after the staff presentation. And this morning, Vice President of Multifamily Housing Finance, Colin Miller, will be presenting this item. Colin, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Benvenuto and Commissioners. The item before you today is a request to take the preliminary steps to issue tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds for the construction of Southwest Village Apartments. Next slide, please. The proposed three-story new construction development will provide 80 affordable units, which will remain affordable for 55 years for individuals and families at 30 to 60% of San Diego's area median income, as well as one unrestricted manager's unit in Council District 4. The development team is a partnership of the Related Companies of California and the Jacob Center for Neighborhood Innovation. Related is a full-service affordable development company, having completed 91 tax credit finance developments with more than 16,000 residential units in California. Related has recently completed 2 developments in San Diego County, Paradise Creek Phases 1 and 2 in National City. Next slide, please. The site is a vacant, sloped 2.27 acre parcel located at 323 through 337 Willie James Jones Road, just north of Imperial Avenue. The site is on the end of the Willie James Jones Avenue cul-de-sac and is adjacent to residential and commercial uses. The site is within a short walk to Food for Less, the Euclid Health Center, the Tubman Chavez Community Center, the Euclid Avenue Trolley Station, and the Jacob Center for Neighborhood Innovation. Next slide, please. Southwest Village Apartments are part of the Jacob Center Town Center Master Plan that intends to revitalize 60 acres in southeastern San Diego along the Market Street corridor centered around the Euclid Avenue Trolley Station, with developments as far south as Imperial Avenue. Next slide, please. The development will provide 31 bedroom, 32 bedroom, 21 3-bedroom, and 1 manager's unit, as well as 96 surface parking spaces. Proposed amenities include a community building for residents targeted toward working families with children, including a meeting rooms, a computer lab, a kitchen, and space for social services and after-school care. The multi-purpose room will connect directly to an outside gathering space with a play area for younger children. The building will also include an on-site property management and leasing office. Now, there is a pathway proposed along the western property line that will connect the Choyas Creek Parkway to the property, providing a direct route from the property to the Market Street Plaza, as well as the Euclid Avenue Trolley Station. Resident services will be provided by Life Steps, the largest provider of social and supportive services to residents of affordable housing in California. Services will include adult education classes such as health and wellness, skill building classes including financial literacy, computer training, homebuyer education, GED and resume building, as well as health and smoking cessation classes. Service coordination will be used to help residents with individual needs, such as accessing governmental and nonprofit assistance, eviction prevention, advocacy, budgeting, and resume writing, as well as job hunting. Life Steps also provides crisis management and mediation services. Next slide, please. As mentioned before, the Southwest Village Apartments are part of the Jacob Center Town Center Master Plan. This master plan is anchored by the Joe and Vi Jacob Center, has already produced a 23,000 square foot family health center, the Tubman Chavez Center, the Malcolm X Library, and the Choyas Creek Villas, a for sale development with 10 affordable units. Next slide, please. The following slides depict the vacant site. This is facing northwest from Willie James Jones, and then southwest from the western side of the site. Next slide, please. And then facing north, and then east to west on the site. So clearly it's a vacant parcel. Next slide, please. The project architect, Rodriguez and Associates, provided the rendering of the proposed community building and a typical building exterior elevation. Next slide, please. Total development cost of the project will be approximately $40.3 million, which equates to about $497,000 per unit. Permit sources of funding include a conventional loan, low-income housing tax credit equity, deferred developer fee, a state of California housing and community development transit-oriented development fund, and general partner equity. It should be noted that there are no Housing Commission loan proceeds contemplated for the project. Next slide, please. As mentioned before, the property will be comprised of 31 bedroom, 32 bedroom, and 21 3-bedroom units at incomes ranging from 30% to 60% of area median income, as well as one unrestricted manager's unit. Rents will range from $649 to $1,501 per month for the 1 through 3-bedroom units. Eligible households and individuals will have incomes ranging from $27,750 to $69,300 based on the 2020 rent and income chart. Next slide, please. Should you approve these actions today, the developer will apply to SDHC and TCAC in May. And if successful in this application round, we would bring this item back to the Housing Commission Board in early September, and then the Housing Authority and City Council for final bond authorization in late September 2021. The developer anticipates closing financing and beginning construction in February 2022, with a planned construction completion occurring in June of 2023. Next slide, please. To summarize the developer's request, you are considering approvals to take the preliminary steps to issue up to $25 million in tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds and up to $15.5 million in taxable bonds. Approval of the bond issuance and TEFRA resolutions does not commit the Housing Authority to issue bonds. The bonds will not constitute debt of the city. The bonds will not financially obligate the city, the Housing Authority, or the Housing Commission, because security for the repayment of the bonds will be limited to specific private revenue sources of the project. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. Staff is requesting that the Housing Commission issue a bond inducement resolution for up to $25 million in multifamily housing revenue bonds and up to $15.5 million in taxable bonds, to authorize an application to SDHC for tax-exempt bonds, to approve ORIC as bond counsel and Ross Financial as the financial advisor. And just to note that these approvals are preliminary and that final authorization by the board and Housing Authority is required at a later date. Further, to authorize the Housing Commission's president and CEO or designee to execute necessary documents in a form approved by General Counsel and Bond Counsel, and take necessary actions upon advice of General Counsel. Lastly, that the Housing Commission hold Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act public hearing and adopt a resolution approving the issuance of up to $25 million in tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds to facilitate the development. Next slide, please. So this concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions along with representatives from the developer.
Thank you, Colin. Scott, do we have any callers?
We do not.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions, comments?
I just had a question for Colin. You guys listed the price of this per unit in the present, and obviously this is something I hear this all the time. Is this price $497,706? You put it down there, estimated total development cost per unit. What's the range that you're seeing? I mean, did this shock you? Why'd you list it like this?
Yeah, so this is our standard presentation of how we show the total development cost, and for full transparency, we want to make sure that the board sees what the cost per unit is. Does it shock me? No. If we look at the deals in development right now, what is under construction versus what's been approved by the board. So our average total development cost per unit for properties under construction is $437,000. So $437,000. Now that's stuff that would have been approved 6 to 12 months ago. Since then, for the stuff that's in our pipeline, we're looking at about $469,000 for new construction, excuse me, $487,000 for new construction deals. So these are things that are board approved, but not yet under construction. So I think when you look at the trends, construction prices have been going up, or construction costs have been going up. We know lumber is becoming more expensive. COVID didn't do us any favors in terms of supplies of material as well as labor. And so, when you look at this having HCD TOD funds, that's going to trigger state prevailing wage. So it doesn't surprise me. And I think we just want we want to make sure that we're being transparent in what we're presenting. And so that is the cost per unit as of now. And when we look at historically, we've seen costs continue to rise.
Yeah. Colin, I appreciate that answer. The reason why I ask, you guys did a great job of answering a question, or you provided information in the packet this time that I had requested a few meetings ago about give me a total view of the units in service, units in production. I think this number is important to add to that when you guys do that snapshot of units in production is what are we seeing as far as the estimated total cost per unit? Because I am concerned that, you said we were 437, now we're looking at 487, and I think it's something that the housing authority should be concerned about as well, the city at City Hall. We've always complained about the cost of housing, but when you're seeing an impact of this nature on housing that is going to be essential for this region, I think that this is a number that needs to be considered in all discussions around development fees at all at City Hall, right? Because if you see this number continue to creep up and at 497 a unit, which, if I heard you right, you said our trend was 437.
Yeah. So in the projects that are under construction, so I can actually, sticks and bricks going in, that's 437 a unit. For the average of what's been approved and is in the pipeline, we're at about 487. So, and what you're seeing there is it's labor costs going up, it's material costs going up. We're hearing that across the board from all of our development partners.
Yeah. So if you could just include that in the snapshot you guys provide every month, just so we as the commissioners can see that if we start to see an escalation, if you bring us projects in the next couple of months that are, 505, 510, then that's going to be a bigger concern. It's just eating up more money and it's reducing, our opportunity to really take the steps forward than we need to. And so it's a number that I think is important. So I just would love if you include that.
Sure, happy to do that. And just to point out, there are no commission loan funds in this project. So it's strictly bond and then money from the state.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other questions? Quickly, did they receive the HCD TOD funds already? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they've been awarded those funds.
Great. I'm sure you said that too, and I
didn't, but thanks for asking. In order for a developer to apply to SDLAC, they need to have all their financing approved and awarded, so yes, everything on here is approved.
Okay, great. Thank you. And one quick item, which is totally, I think this is probably left field, but I just wanted to throw this out there as you had mentioned that the community center or the community building will be, really focused on family serving. And a couple of years ago, I had asked something about whether or not the commission thinks about childcare. And the answer appropriately was, no, that's not what we do. I am curious, though, if there's ever been any conversations about when you have buildings that are family focused in a build that has a lot of 3 bedrooms where you're anticipating kids to be there. And, have we ever explored a partnership to think about childcare on any of these sites?
So not from my shop. Most of that would usually go through the developer, as they're the ones that would be contracting out for social services. And this developer has Related and the Jacob Center have contracted with Life Steps. And I know I read off a shopping list worth of services that they plan to provide. Childcare was not one of them, but I know we have some representative from Related on the call. If they have any.
In no way am I asking to change anything about this deal. This is clearly cooked and off and running, and I think it's wonderful in this site. could benefit from being developed. So, but it's just something that I thought could be an interesting, perhaps from Molly's shop in the policy side, because putting a childcare facility on a site is also no easy thing. There is a boatload of regulations that come with it. You've got to find the workforce. There's a lot there. I would just be curious if there is a space to think about that, because even with some of our workforce programs, what we find is that childcare is an issue for a lot of these, for these clients of ours. They don't have a trusted space to put a child while they go pursue higher education or job training. So just a thing I want to chuck out there, since everybody has a lot of free time. If you want to noodle on something, I would love to noodle on that with you. But overall, I think this is a fantastic project, and I'm going to shut up. So is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Davis, second by Vice Chair Klumpner. We'll go ahead and vote. Vice Chair Klumpner?
Aye.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Hester?
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, and I will add my vote in favor. Motion carries unanimously. Our next item is 104, the Ventana El Sur Apartments modification of preliminary bond authorization and tax equity and fiscal responsibility act, or TEFRA hearing. The TEFRA hearing is now open. The phone line is also now open for public comments about item 104. Please call 833-610-2513 to be placed in the queue. There were no written public comments submitted for the item, but if you wish to call in, that number is 833-610-2513. And we'll take public comments after the staff presentation. This is another call-in show. So Colin, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you again, Chair Benvenuto. Hello again, Commissioners. The item before you today is a request to make a modification to a previously approved preliminary bond authorization of tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds and hold a new TEFRA hearing. Next slide, please. The Ventana El Sur is a proposed 4-story new construction affordable rental housing development, which will be comprised of 100 affordable units and 1 unrestricted manager's unit. The project is located at 4132 Bayer Boulevard in the San Ysidro Community Planning Area and San Ysidro Historic Village Specific Plan in San Ysidro in Council District 8. The proposed project's 100 affordable 1-bedroom units will serve seniors aged 65 and older. All restricted units will remain affordable from 20 to 50% of area median income for the next 55 years. 25 units will be designated for seniors experiencing chronic homelessness and seniors experiencing homelessness with a serious mental illness in the city of San Diego who meet certain income criteria and who are identified as most appropriate for permanent supportive housing as determined by assessments conducted through the coordinated entry system. This development is supported by and part of Housing First, the Housing Commission's Homelessness Action Plan. Next slide, please. In February of 2020, the Housing Commission Board approved a residual receipt loan of up to $4.4 million and approved the preliminary actions to apply for up to $25 million in tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds. The previously approved $4.4 million loan term was for 18 months. Staff had been working with the developer to address construction cost increases. Should conversations with the developer be successful and the project receive an award of bonds and tax credits, the president and CEO who is authorized via the approved term sheet can extend the closing date. The co-developers request increasing the tax-exempt bond amount to $35 million, primarily due to 2 actions taken by SDLAC and TCAC on December 21st, 2020. The California Tax Credit Allocation Committee approved a new regulation that allows for a 5% higher eligible basis multiplication factor, while the California Debt Limit Allocation Committee adopted a developer fee regulation change for projects that benefit Black and Indigenous people of color, BIPOC, for which Ventana El Sur qualifies. Approximately 56% of the developer fee would be contributed back to the project as equity. These 2 actions will result in the project being able to generate more tax credit equity that will partially offset increases in project construction costs. Next slide, please. This slide shows the site map of the development. The site is located at 4132 Bayer Boulevard in Council District 8. The site is less than 1 block away from the Bayer Boulevard Trolley Station and San Ysidro Branch Library, 2 blocks north of the San Ysidro Community Park and Civic Center. Next slide, please. The total development cost of the project will be approximately $57.3 million, which equates to a per unit cost of approximately $567,000. Notable sources of funding include a permanent loan, loans from the Housing Commission, a $20 million loan from the State and Housing Community Development's multifamily housing program, tax credit equity, a deferred developer fee, and a $5.1 million general partner equity contribution. I'd like to point out that the $5.1 million contribution is the majority of the additional equity generated by the changes made by SDLAC and TCAC that I mentioned before. The developer is putting this additional equity back into the project effectively as a grant, demonstrating their commitment to the community and this project. Next slide, please. Units will be restricted at 20 to 50% of area median income for 55 years. Rents will range from $404 to $1,011 per month, with 25 of the residents also benefiting from a project-based voucher awarded by the Housing Commission. Next slide, please. Should this be approved today, the developer will apply to SDLAC for bonds in May. If the developer is successful, we anticipate bringing this item back for final bond-related approvals in October of 2021. At that time, in addition to Housing Commission board approval, the project will also be brought before the Housing Authority for approval in November. The developer would expect to close financing and start construction in November of 2021 and complete construction by 2022. Next slide, please. You are considering approvals to take the preliminary steps to issue up to $35 million in tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds. Approval of the Bond Issuance and Tax Equity Fiscal Responsibility Act resolutions do not commit the Housing Authority to issue bonds. The bonds will not constitute a debt of the city. If bonds are ultimately issued for the project, the bonds will not financially obligate the city, the Housing Authority, or the Housing Commission, because security for the repayment of the bonds will be limited to specific private revenue sources of the project. Next slide, please. This is the architect's rendering of the building with the podium parking shown in orange. I'm assuming you guys can see that, it's kind of small, sorry. Social service and commercial areas in pink along Buyer Boulevard, and the residential units in yellow on the slide. Next slide, please. Staff recommends the board approve the initial steps to issue up to $35 million in tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds, including issuing a bond inducement resolution, authorizing a bond allocation application to the California Debt Limit Allocation Committee, approving the financing team of Quentin Thimick as bond counsel and Ross Financial as financial advisor, as well as authorizing the Housing Commission's president and CEO or designee to execute necessary documents in a form approved by general counsel and bond counsel and take necessary actions upon advice of general counsel or bond counsel. Staff is recommending to not extend the previously approved loan terms at this time. Next slide, please. Lastly, staff is recommending that the Housing Commission board hold a Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act public hearing and adopt a resolution approving the issuance of tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds in an amount up to $35 million to facilitate the development. Next slide, please. So this concludes the presentation. I am available to answer questions along with the development partners of Kingdom and MAC as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott, do we have any callers?
No, we do not.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, questions, comments?
My two previous questions and comments apply to this as well. Location, cost.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I thought you might be going there.
Yeah. So
go for it.
Yeah. So as mentioned, that the property is 1 block away from a trolley station, and we can put that on the map. The map's pretty small, but there's a little blue dot just to the left of that pin. That's the station. I know that's kind of hard to see. We can do a better job with the maps. I mean, it is literally less than 1 block away from the Buyer Boulevard trolley station.
Okay.
So that to your question about the cost, yeah, we've been in conversation with the developer about this. They are building podium parking. They have prevailing wage. They have other costs that are driving the construction. And so we've been working with them, and we've been asking them to sharpen their pencil, because we do understand that $567,000 per unit is higher than you're used to seeing. We also understand that the need for housing is great, and that the construction costs continue to climb. When you add in this is a kind of an interesting thing we're seeing. There's a desire for to have certain prevailing wages paid, but that also drives costs. And so trying to balance those two, I think it's a very fine line that we're trying to navigate. with this.
I'm in full support of prevailing wage being paid. That's my issue. I think that again, this goes back to the comment I made at the last meeting as well. We need to sit down with Sandag and talk about, locations, properties. The city has to think about some things. They have a bunch of small parcels that they're never going to use. That, if we can get the land costs down, if there's other ways to offset it, then they can control this 560, this cost per unit number. And I just don't think we can ignore it as commissioners that the previous presentation was 493. And I said, well, we started seeing at 505. And then I remember this one was, 560, so that was why I made the point is the range seems to be crazy out of control. We just need to figure out how we're going to address it.
Yeah, and I would like to point out that if this helps Scott with the conversation. So the general partner equity contribution is about $5.1 million on a per unit basis. That's around 60-some thousand. If that were removed from the project, if they weren't putting that money back into it, if they weren't increasing their developer fee to help fund other costs, you'd back that out from your TDC, and you'd be right around the 500,000 mark, which is what we see, or what we've been seeing for senior properties. But in this case, the developer is able to generate more tax credit equity. They're putting it back into the project. This isn't like a loan that they're going to pay themselves back. This is them truly bringing, nearly 10% of the TDC to the project. So I felt that was worth pointing out as well. But yeah, your points are well taken.
Any other commissioner questions or comments? I'll go ahead and jump in then. The cost per unit is, of course, that makes your eyes go, whoa. I remember Courthouse Commons downtown, which had a pool on the roof, if I remember correctly, was like $550 a door. But either way, I mean, I can appreciate there are a lot of pressures, and if this is a staff recommendation, I can go with it. Is there questions or comments or a motion then from the other commissioners?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. And a second?
Second.
Vice Chair Klempner. Go ahead and vote. Vice Chair Klempner?
Aye.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Hester?
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Aye.
Thank you. I'll add my vote in favor. Motion passes unanimously. Our next item is item 105, the San Diego Housing Commission proposed fiscal year 22 budget. The phone line is now open for public comments about the budget. You can call 833-610-2513 to be placed in the queue. We did not receive any written public comments, but the number to call is 833-610-2513. If there are comments, we'll take them after the staff presentation. But we'll be hearing from Deputy CEO Jeff Davis, Executive Vice President of Business Administration Suket Dayal, and Senior Vice President and Chief Financial Officer Tracy McDermott. Whenever you all are ready.
Thank you, Chair Benvenuto. Commissioners, slide 2, please. So based upon input that we received from council members, including comments made at the Land Use and Housing Committee on April 22nd, we have updated our proposed fiscal year 2022 budget since the workshop that we presented to this board during the workshop at the April 2 meeting. Suket and Tracy will highlight those changes for you in a moment. This morning, I will start by providing a brief overview of some of the major highlights of our proposed budget. Suket will then present our objectives and deliverables, and then Tracy will walk you through the sources and uses of funds in detail. Next slide. Slide 4. So this year we are requesting approval of a budget of $585 million. The budget we are presenting to you today is based on conservative estimates and continues to advance our many programs that have a positive impact on the lives of San Diegans who have lower incomes or who experience homelessness. This budget reflects an increase of approximately $60 million from the fiscal year 2021 approved budget, largely due to federal, state, and city funds committed to continuing programs to respond to the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. We anticipate likely needing to amend this budget during the upcoming fiscal year as additional federal, state, and local resources are considered approved and allocated. These may include emergency rental housing vouchers, additional state home key program funds, and more federal funding for housing stability relief programs. Next slide. Our fiscal year 2022 budget reflects the continuation of programs to assist those in need due to the financial impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. As you well know, the Housing Commission received $92 million for the current ongoing COVID-19 Housing Stability Assistance Program. As updated earlier, we started issuing payments in late April and will continue through the current fiscal year. We anticipate also continuing to expend funds for this program in fiscal year 2022, so we have included a portion of these funds in our proposed budget. We're also anticipating additional funding from the Federal American Rescue Plan Act adopted in March 2021. Next slide. This budget also reflects the Housing Commission's continuing commitment to our leadership role in programs to address homelessness. As this slide shows, our budget for homelessness programs has steadily increased since fiscal year 2018. In the proposed budget for fiscal year 2022, expenditures on homelessness programs will exceed $120 million. As you're well aware, redirecting funds to address homelessness affects other Housing Commission programs. It's one of the many factors that influence the funding available to invest in affordable housing development. Next slide. The budget we are presenting will enable the Housing Commission to continue to help approximately 15,500 low-income households pay their rent, provide opportunities for these households to become more financially self-reliant through our Achievement Academy programs, renovate, rehabilitate, and manage our growing number of affordable rental housing units, acquire a property for affordable housing, and administer programs that address the homelessness crisis in our city. Next slide.
Thanks, Jeff. Let's move to the next slide, please. Thanks. As Jeff mentioned, our federal funding will allow us to provide rental assistance to over 15,000 families, or nearly 50,000 people, through our regular vouchers, special purpose vouchers, and boutique programs. Let me give some examples of our special purpose vouchers. Mainstream voucher is a good example that's aimed at assisting non-elderly persons with disabilities. Another example of a special purpose voucher is our VASH, or Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing Program, that combines HUD Housing Choice Voucher rental assistance and services provided by the Department of Veterans Affairs, or the VA. Our NTW designation does allow us to develop a lot of boutique programs like our Monarch School Project, our Guardian Scholars Program, where we partner with the community to provide a holistic solution that combines housing and services. This budget also includes continued support for our Landlord Partnership Program that has been very successful and includes features like a Landlord Assurance Fund and a leasing incentive payment for landlords leasing to the Housing Choice Voucher families. Next slide, please. To support the creation and preservation of affordable housing, the proposed budget commits more than $20 million to acquire affordable housing and $8 million to rehabilitate Housing Commission-owned properties to ensure that we're meeting and exceeding the housing quality standards. Additionally, we've set aside $16 million to its preservation of affordable housing in San Diego. We also have committed another $16 million in affordable housing funds and home funding to provide loans to developers to create affordable rental housing units. And as Jeff mentioned, based on the feedback received from Council at the Land Use and Housing Committee, we've increased our successful first-time homebuyers program and committed $7.8 million, or up to 100 homes, towards the effort. Next slide, please. The Community Action Plan provides a framework as the Housing Commission continues to dedicate substantial resources to address homelessness. It assists in identifying the annual underlying actions that focus on achieving the 3-year goals, as well as continue activities that specifically support these goals. The budget also supports our Housing First San Diego initiative, which has created around 10,000 housing solutions in 6 years for individuals and families experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness. The Housing Commission also administers the city's homeless shelters and services programs, including the Bridge Shelters and Storage Connect Centers. Some program examples are the Homeless Response Center program, whose objective is to provide system navigation services that coordinate all activities to move someone from homelessness to permanent or longer-term housing. The Coordinated Street Outreach Program recognizes street outreach as an essential element of the city's homelessness crisis center, homelessness crisis response system, and is client-centered with a housing-focused model. And with that, Tracy will go over our sources. Next slide, please.
Thank you. So let's go to slide 13 and talk about our funding sources available. This slide compares our total funding sources for fiscal year 22 versus 2021. We are projecting an increase of approximately 60 million or 11% in total funding. The majority of the increase is related to over 63 million to be expended in fiscal year 22 for COVID-19 Housing Stability Assistance Program. This increase is offset by a decrease in expenditure of federal funds that in fiscal year 2021 supported the Housing Commission's purchase of 2 extended stay hotels to create permanent housing with supportive services for individuals experiencing homelessness during the pandemic. Let's go to slide 14, please. This shows our new revenue for major category. And as you can see, more than 77% is from federal funding. Slide 15, please. Now we're going to move to slide 16 and talk about uses of funds. This is our funding uses by federal year, by major category. In our proposed budget, expenses increased by almost 48 million or 11% over fiscal year 21. The increase in housing program expense and professional services is primarily due to previous mentioned ongoing COVID-19 Housing Stability Assistance Program. In addition, the Housing Commission's program expenses increased by 2 million and our debt service by 2 million. These increases are the result of the purchase of the extended stay hotel properties in Kearney Mesa and Hotel Circle, and as well as the acquisition of Hillcrest Inn in fiscal year 2021. The former extended stay hotel properties now provide 332 affordable rental housing units with supportive services for individuals who experience homelessness during the pandemic. And Hillcrest Inn provides 45 affordable rental housing units for a mix of income from individuals who experience homelessness to middle income households. Now let's go to next slide, please. This pie chart depicts total funding uses, not including reserves by major division. The majority of our funding uses in fiscal year 2022, 63% is dedicated to rental assistance division, as shown in the blue area in the chart. Now let's go to slide 18. This is a summary of our personnel necessary to administer and operate our programs. Our budget anticipates the addition of staff for the Homelessness Response Center and possibly 3 more staff for rescue vouchers if they are awarded. And with these additions, we will now have 352 full-time equivalent positions. Now let's go to next slide, please. And this is our total homeless expenditures for the past 5 years. As the city has turned to the Housing Commission to help address homelessness in recent years, our expenditures for homelessness programs have increased steadily. This chart illustrates the Housing Commission's continued investment towards addressing homelessness. Now let's go to slide 20 and look in detail of our homelessness program expenditures plan for 2022. The fiscal year 2022 budget will support Housing Commission homelessness programs, as well as the agency's administration of city programs. The Housing Commission's budget expenditures by the major homelessness programs in fiscal year 2022 will be more than 120 million. Let's go to the next slide, please. Today, we are requesting your approval of the fiscal year 2022 budget in the amount of 585 million. Budget amendments may be necessary during the upcoming fiscal year as additional federal, state, and local funds are considered, approved, and allocated. These may include opportunities like emergency rental housing vouchers from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, additional state home key program funds, and more funding for rent relief programs. Now to slide 22. This concludes our presentation, and we are available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott, do we have any callers?
We do not have any callers on this item.
Commissioners, any questions? And this is a recap from the workshop at our last meeting. As staff mentioned, some minor tweaks in there. If there are no questions or comments, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Davis,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Hester. Thank you. We'll go ahead and vote. Vice Chair Klumpner,
Aye.
Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Hester,
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell.
You skipped Commissioner Akers. I'm just kidding. Aye.
You're hilarious.
Aye.
So good that you're here with the jokes. I've had my vote in favor. The ghost of Commissioner Akers, I'm sure, would also vote in favor, but that motion will pass unanimously. Our next item, which fortunately does not come with a roll call vote, is a workshop. This is about the City of San Diego Affordable Housing Fund. The phone line is open for public comments about item 106. You can call 833-610-2513 to be placed in the queue. There was no written public comment, but if there are any callers, we'll take them afterward. I believe that Deputy CEO Jeff Davis had comments before we kick it over to Sukat.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Before Sukat begins the workshop presentation, I just wanted to provide a few comments about how this workshop came about. At our last meeting on April 2nd, during the discussion about the proposed FY22 Affordable Housing Fund plan, Commissioner Mitchell asked several important questions about how the fund and these resources are used. So our CEO, Rick Gentry, indicated that we would provide a report to the board at this meeting to address those questions. This workshop will provide additional information about the history of the Affordable Housing Fund, process by which dollars from the fund are expended and have been expended over the years, and what has been accomplished with these valuable resources. Understanding the full extent of the Affordable Housing Fund's impact and the process for utilizing these funds is important for this board and the public to understand, and so we appreciate the opportunity to strengthen that understanding. And of course, we look forward to any additional questions or comments you may have at the end of the presentation. So with that, I'll ask Sukat to begin the workshop presentation.
Thanks, Jeff. Good morning, Chair Benvenuto, Commissioners, Mr. Christensen, Mr. Davis. I'm Sukat Dayal, Executive Vice President of Business Administration, and presenting with me are Emily Jacobs, our Executive Vice President of Real Estate, and Tracy McDermott, our Chief Financial Officer. As per your request this morning, we're presenting an informational workshop on the City of San Diego's Affordable Housing Fund. I'll start us off with a quick Affordable Housing Fund 101. Emily will then walk us through the development life cycle, and Tracy will discuss how these funds have been employed over the years. Next slide, please. So the City of San Diego's Affordable Housing Fund was created by San Diego City Council on June 3rd, 2003, as a permanent and annually renewable source of revenue to meet the housing needs of the city's lower income households. It consists of two funds. First, the Housing Trust Fund that includes revenue from housing impact fees on commercial development and loan repayments. These fees help provide affordable housing for low-income workers, and the ordinance requires allocations of funds for transitional housing for individuals experiencing homelessness, housing for low-income and very low-income households, and the first-time home buyers program. Second is the Inclusionary Housing Fund, and this includes revenue from the collection of fees on residential development and loan repayments. Developers may choose to either build affordable housing units or pay fees that will be used to create and preserve affordable rental housing and assist first-time home buyers. One of the purposes of the Affordable Housing Fund is to leverage, and every $1 of city funds is supposed to be leveraged with at least $2 of non-city subsidy capital funds. Just as a quick example, in FY 2020, each Affordable Housing Fund dollar leveraged approximately $11 in additional funding, far surpassing the 1:2 requirement. Next slide, please. So affordable housing funds may be allocated to programs identified in the list of model programs, which are presented to the Housing Commission Board and to City Council for consideration and approval each year as part of the Affordable Housing Fund annual plan. However, I do want to point out funds are not required to be allocated to all the model programs each year. This slide shows the model programs to which funds are currently allocated. Emily will now provide us more details about the timeline of Affordable Housing Fund to support affordable rental housing development. Next slide, please.
The time for when fees are collected to the completion of the development typically spans several years. The next two slides show a condensed timeline for this process. First, through the fiscal year, the City of San Diego collects the fees that provide revenue to the Affordable Housing Fund. These are either residential inclusionary housing fees or housing impact fees on commercial development. On a quarterly basis, the city transfers 100% of those funds to the San Diego Housing Commission. On an annual basis, the Housing Commission develops the next fiscal year's Affordable Housing Fund Plan based on available funds and priorities the agency identifies in consultation with stakeholders. The proposed annual plan is presented to local community planning groups to receive input from the community. Then the proposed plan is presented to the Housing Commission Board, and then the City Council's Land Use and Housing Committee, and before presentation to the full City Council in June. If approved, the Affordable Housing Fund annual plan is in effect at the start of the fiscal year on July 1. The Housing Commission develops the Affordable Housing Fund annual plan in conjunction with the agency's annual budget process. The annual plan is presented to the City Council at the same meeting at which the Housing Commission's annual budget is presented for consideration by the Council in its role as the housing authority. If approved, the Housing Commission's budget is in effect at the start of the fiscal year, again, July 1. The annual budget includes funds designated for a Notice of Funding Availability, or NOFA, for the affordable rental housing developments. The Housing Commission releases its annual NOFA typically in the fall each year. Developers have 60 days to apply for capital funds and/or vouchers through the NOFA. Once the NOFA application period closes, Housing Commission staff begin reviewing and scoring applications. This review process generally takes 60 days. After all applications are scored, the Housing Commission sends preliminary award letters to successful applicants. Next slide, please. The award of development funds, apologies, a little technical difficulties here. The award of development funds are not final until the Housing Commission Board approves the proposed loan to the developer. Depending on each project's unique timeline, proposed developments are presented to the Housing Commission's Board for consideration through the fiscal year. Once the board approves funding for a development, the Housing Commission holds the funds in a reserve account while the developer continues to secure all other available funding sources for the development. At this point, these funds are committed for the awarded projects and are not available for other uses, even though they have not been expended. Awarding funds through this process supports leveraging affordable housing funds to obtain additional funding for affordable housing developments. After a developer secures all of the necessary funding for its project, the Housing Commission enters into loan agreements with the developer and construction financing closes. The Housing Commission begins dispersing the awarded funds when construction begins. Throughout the timeline, the Housing Commission disperses additional funds in accordance with the executed loan agreements as the development achieves specific benchmarks or milestones. The Housing Commission continues to hold the committed funds in reserve accounts so they are available to be dispersed when those milestones occur. Then the project completes construction. Once completed, the project converts to permanent financing and the Housing Commission makes its final disbursement. Please note that this timeline reflects the circumstances for a general typical development. Different factors unique to a development may affect elements of this timeline. Now Tracy will discuss the Affordable Housing Fund's collection and expenditures. Tracy?
Thank you, Emily. Let's go to slide 6. So we're looking at fiscal year 2015 through 2020. That's really when we started to have the large intake of collections. So from fiscal year 2015 through 2020, the city of San Diego collected about $112 million in fees as revenue for the Affordable Housing Fund. So let's go to slide 7 and we can show you how we expended those funds. This slide shows a breakdown of Affordable Housing Fund expenditures from 2015 through 2020. Those include rental housing finance,
homeless housing initiatives, and homeownership programs. 2/3 of our expenditures are for rental housing finance, which includes the construction of affordable rental housing. So let's go to the next slide, please. We're going to go into more detail of each homeownership. So over 4.4 million affordable housing funds have been spent to assist 159 households to become homeowners. But I just want to note that the Affordable Housing Fund is just one of the many sources the Housing Commission has utilized to assist first-time home buyers. So let's go to slide 9. We can talk about our homelessness programs. Since 2015, more than 19 million from the Affordable Housing Fund has been expended to help more than 8,300 households experiencing homelessness. These funds have supported programs such as rapid rehousing, transitional housing, homelessness prevention diversion, and landlord engagement. Now let's go to slide 10. And you can see that more than 66 million from the Affordable Housing Fund has been expended to create over 2,400 affordable rental housing units. And now to the next slide. This is since inception. This shows the total number of affordable housing units the Affordable Housing Fund has helped to produce through April 1st, 2021. And I believe we'll be providing this update on a regular basis. And so we'll go to slide 12. And that concludes our presentation. We're available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions, comments? Oh, I'm sorry, Scott, are there any callers?
No, we don't have any callers. Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, questions or comments?
But I want to comment that I appreciate everything that the staff did to pull this together. Very well done. And I told Jeff that, and I apologize for delaying and letting everybody know that, but it was very well done. Can you go back to the slide that shows the inclusionary and so my question for you, I'll go back one more slide, I think.
The collections.
What we collect, yeah.
One more.
Yeah, go back one more.
That one, okay.
Yep. So my question for you is when we think about the how this money's generated, and the linkage fees, total inclusionary. So for the large projects that are coming up, and I don't know this answer. I've asked the chairwoman to explain this to me, and she won't. So if you could tell me what all the large projects that are coming up, Grand Central Station, the SDSU West, all those things, there's gonna be 4,100 units of housing tied to SDSU West. So how do all the big projects tie into the funding into this bucket?
I can speak to that, sure. So it's largely dependent, Mitch, to your point, on if they're deciding to build or if they're opting to pay the inclusionary fee. What we're seeing on the larger projects that we have in the pipeline with this inclusionary requirement is that they are opting to build right now, which is great. However, we're in the lower phases of the phase-in. So we're at a 2% requirement. In July, it'll go up to 4%. We are noticing that people are opting to build at this point. We have noticed also on the larger developments that even if they have a 2% requirement, they're opting to do 10, which we're very happy to see.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. So in the large projects coming up, we can expect SDSU West is going to have 4,100 units of housing. So 10% or 4% will be the requirement of that total population. And then on the sports arena, if that ever happens, that the same requirement will apply there as well.
That's correct. And again, what we are seeing on the larger ones that we're seeing, about 75% of them are opting to go a higher percentage in terms of build.
Okay. So Emily, a great presentation, really, really easy to understand. When you guys look out on the spectrums, I actually look out, just because we have to provide the power to all these projects, I look out across over the next 5 years at what's coming. And can you guys run a total? I mean, obviously, if sports arena happens, SDSU West. I don't know if they're building housing tied to any of the others, or because I don't think I don't, obviously. So if there's other, can you give us an idea of what the big projects are where there's going to be significant numbers coming in terms of the 4% mandate, and if they go to 10%, great. Can you give us an idea what that is?
Sure, yeah. So we'll, offline be able to provide kind of what we're seeing in the pipeline, what we believe that will generate in terms of actual units. In terms of projecting the actual fee, I think we're anticipating that we won't see a lot of fee generated in the early ramp up.
Okay.
We'll see folks opting to build. And then as we get to the complete inclusionary requirement, we may see a shift in the later years in terms of fee coming in.
Okay. And then Emily, can you fast forward to the one recap slide that I love, which is units in production right here. So here in development, you have 3,138. And so ultimately those will be finished and they'll add to the units in the affordable units in service. So we're expecting that this affordable units in development number is going to continue to increase based on all the projects coming. So 3138 is a good number. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was asking, if when you look ahead, what the total number of units in service could be by 2024. Can you give us a projection?
I can certainly give you a projection outside of this meeting just to make sure it's accurate, but it will be just that, projections, right? Because some projects don't come to fruition, but yeah, absolutely. We'd be happy to.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. But well done.
Thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. Good questions. I was curious if you guys have any sort of thought to a lot of the big tech builds that are going on. So, I mean, we talked a lot about inclusionary. I thank you for the shout out, Mitch. Yes, I have refused to explain anything to him. And if we were in person, I would throw a pastry at you. But we, inclusionary is one side, but then the linkage fee. And when I'm thinking about, Apple coming or Stockdale redoing Horton Plaza, some of the other big tech builds that are happening in downtown, are you anticipating you're going to see a little bump up from all of that? How are those conversations going?
Yeah, we should see some response to that. I think the challenges we're seeing in the bond market is also creating some unique opportunities there, where in Northern California, they're able to leverage tech giants to kind of help with some creative bond issuance strategies. We may see that come to fruition here, but we definitely should see some more blip in that regard with, Horton Plaza, et cetera, or Westfield Horton Plaza for people that have been here too long, right?
Yeah, no, thank you. And that is certainly one of the weird dynamics of San Diego. We're a wonderful place, but we don't have the headquartered companies. It's that getting that skin in the game is a very, very tough thing. And we can all ask our friend Debbie Ruane if you want to hear some of the horror stories about how trying to bring the employers to the table. So thank you. Are there any other commissioner questions or comments?
Chair, I just was going to add on to what you just said, because I appreciated your add on that with regard to not the inclusionary, but the linkage. Like Alexandria is planning to, my understanding is they're planning that there's a thought they can add another 5 million square feet of space in Science Park and those areas. And so, again, Emily, I don't know if you guys, I know you said that's a little tougher to predict, but if I guess is there a calculation that you use if San Diego adds, 10 million square feet of space, research and office or space over the next 5 years? What does that mean for the linkage fee component?
We stay in very close contact with the city that assist us in generating those projections. I will note for this group who are housing nerds, we all nerd out on this, is I think we'll start to see with the impacts of COVID, people rethinking office space. And I think we're going to see a lot of adaptive reuse around taking office space for other uses like that to reimagine housing. So we may not see huge spikes on the commercial side, but we may get some production out of it because of the adaptive reuse and kind of be more creative about the housing types.
That's a great point, Emily. Kudos to you because that is the one thing, as I asked that question, it made me think a lot of big companies are rethinking the need to build up.
Right.
Because the new model is, 2 days in the office, 3 days working from home, or whatever. And so that will impact that linkage fee component probably.
That's right.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Hester.
Can we go back to slide 5? Wondering about NOFA. Slide 5. Yep. Or maybe it is slide 4. Sorry, I think it's slide 4. Thank you, there it is. Number 6 or number 5, releases notice of funding availability. That's the process whereby we put in the public that for any of the vendors that there's an opportunity to put on a bid to build. Is that what that process is about?
So this is our available funding for developers, kind of similar to the presentations we had today on the projects where they're requesting funds to actually develop the housing. So this is that process where they come in the door with an application and say, hey, this is our project, this is what it costs, this is what we need. And then we take that through our underwriting and scoring panels and come up with a determination.
And how is that made available to women and underrepresented groups as a way to have an opportunity to bid for a project like this?
Sure. So a lot of the loans that we issue and the funds that we administer, we require Section 3 compliance, and that they also make efforts in terms of their labor priorities and who they contract with. We give priority to that. And also when we blast out the notice of funding availability, it goes to thousands of potential applicants, several of which are women and minority-owned businesses.
Okay, thank you. I think that that's fine. Yeah. Thank you, Emily.
Sure, you got it.
Okay, thank you. Any final questions or comments? All right, I think since this is an informational item, we can, there's no action required, and we can adjourn and then convene in closed session just under the 2-hour mark. So we'll go ahead and convene the phone line. We'll convene in closed session. The phone line is now open for public comments about the closed session agenda. You can call 833-610-2513 to be placed in the queue. No written public comments for this one either. Mr. Christensen, will you please announce the closed session agenda for this morning?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. The Housing Commission will now meet in closed session to discuss its closed session agenda, which includes Roman numeral 4, conference with legal counsel, re-initiation of litigation, one matter.
Thank you. We'll now take any public comments from callers about the closed session agenda. Scott, do we have any callers?
We don't have any callers yet. We have about 50 seconds left on the clock.
Great, thank you.
That concludes the time, and there are no callers for the closed session.
Great, thank you. If there are, sorry, 1 second. If you are not part of the commission staff or a commissioner, you are welcome to leave prior to starting our closed session as well. So I believe, okay. This concludes the public period comment for this item. After the closed session, the board will reconvene in open session, and General Counsel Chuck Christensen will announce actions taken during the closed session. So now we're going to go ahead and transition over. We'll wait for staff to let us know that we are no longer streaming.
Let's see, what's the script say? I think I can I say that now? Go ahead. All right. The Housing Commission Board met in closed session to discuss its closed session agenda, and by a vote of 5-0 unanimously gave direction to council concerning the anticipated litigation. That concludes the matters that were discussed in closed session.
And I believe we are ready to adjourn. It's 11:35. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye.